Kirby down to James Lee. Lee driving with it, goes under, dump.
The Kentucky uniform was the prettiest thing I think I ever saw. Beautiful blue and white. These are uniforms that the Fabulous Five had worn, playing in these, tremendous uniforms that these players had won these national championships in. You can't believe that you're there at Kentucky. Oh, I've made it.
Basketball in Kentucky is not a game. It is a way of life.
Great move by Jamal Mashburn.
Walking out into this temple is a carpet. Walking into Rupp Arena for Kentucky basketball, it's just a special feeling. You're a small part of something that's so special.
Breaking in for the basket, it's good, and he's fouled.
The history of Kentucky basketball, and you talk about the players there, it's just amazing. I mean, there's guys before me that laid the groundwork. I made history while I was there.
Gibbons again. By Jack Gibbons.
The Kentucky people, the Kentucky players, think without question, beyond a shadow of a doubt, this is the place where college basketball started. And they think it's the greatest place on earth to play college basketball. And because of that perception, statewide, this place is special.
Top Cats, the University of Kentucky Wildcats in the NCAA Basketball Championships.
It's deep-rooted in tradition. It's a symbol of excellence in a state that revolves around horses and basketball. The common thread, I think, amongst all Kentuckians is its pride in its basketball.
First grade, they asked us what we wanted to be, and a lot of people put doctors and lawyers and astronauts. I wanted to be a Wildcat. That's what I wanted to be.
To a kid that has grown up playing the game of basketball and having those dreams of one day becoming a collegiate basketball player, there's only one place, and that's the University of Kentucky.
Throughout 5 decades of NCAA tournament excellence, the University of Kentucky has enjoyed tremendous success. More tournament appearances than any other school, 5 national championships, 10 trips to the Final Four, and a lengthy list of outstanding players, many of whom dreamed at a young age that they too would one day play for the Wildcats and step onto center court with visions of winning an NCAA championship. The Kentucky teams of the 1990s have in many ways enhanced the Wildcats' reputation. These days, an NCAA basketball championship is incomplete without Kentucky, and the players of the 90s owe it all to the Wildcats' grand basketball tradition.
Kentucky basketball greatness really began when Coach Adolph Rupp arrived on the scene.
That was in 1930, but it wasn't until 1942 that Kentucky played in its first NCAA tournament. Relying on the sped-up style of basketball that Rupp brought to the Bluegrass, the Cats reached the Final Four, where they lost to Dartmouth, but it was clearly the start of something big.
Coach Rupp changed the whole outlook, the whole method of basketball as it was played, and it started his tenure, but really didn't balloon until our club.
Our club was the Wildcats of 1948. Of that group, it was written, they were fiercely competitive with a fast break like a runaway locomotive. They also had a distinctive nickname.
During that 48 season, we were winning and playing good basketball, and one of the sports writers thought that was fabulous, and he came up with Fabulous Five.
Few nicknames were ever more appropriate, especially when the Fabulous Five faced Holy Cross in the Final Four.
Holy Cross had Cousy. They were supposed to be the beasts of the East, and so we were farm boys from Kentucky, and so we stuck it to them.
That night, the most important farm boy was Kenny Rollins.
He guarded Cousy, and he held Cousy no field goal.
By shutting down Cousy, the Wildcats went on to beat Holy Cross and faced Baylor in their first national championship game. It was no contest. Led by a spirited defense and the inside play of Alex Groza, Kentucky came out on top 58-42.
That was our first national championship. Coach Rupp was happy, and if Coach Rupp was happy, then we were happy. So it was just one big happy family.
And there was more happiness after the season. At the 1948 London Olympics, the Fabulous Five represented the United States and completed their dream season by winning the gold medal.
There just aren't that many people that have won a gold medal in the Olympics. And number two, never again will 5 starting players of a university team be on a team that wins the Olympics.
When the 5 boys stood on the podium in Wembley Stadium before 73,000 people and received gold medals, champions of the world, and they played the Star-Spangled Banner and that flag went up, I'll never forget that. Never. I think that's the greatest moment I ever experienced.
When Kenny Rollins graduated the next season, the Fabulous Five became the Fabulous Four, a team that lost only once in the regular season and challenged again for the national championship.
There was pressure to repeat, but we'd been there. We knew what it was about, and we wanted to go back and do it again.
Led by their senior All-Americans, Alex Groza and Ralph Beard, the Wildcats reached the NCAA championship final for the second consecutive year, where they faced Oklahoma A&M.
We were pretty confident because we had the better athletes. We knew that if we played our game, that we could win, but they held the ball.
Beginning to yell, take some shots as the Aggies still play hold the ball idle system.
Coach Rupp and Coach Lancaster always had the other team scouted well. Coach Lancaster said, look, we want to win as a team. The way that we're going to win as a team is that we're going to throw the ball to Groza in the middle.
Here's to Jones in the front part of the court. Interfered goes to Groza. He spins. Harris goes with him. Groza lays it in. Breaking in for the basket. It's good and he's fouled. Jones in the front part of the court.
With Groza scoring 25 of the Cats' 46 points, Kentucky stopped the Aggies by 10 to win its second straight national championship.
Rebounded by Shelton. He flips over on the far side. 1 second to play as Yates shoots and drops the ball on the floor. The game ends. The Wildcats are the defending champions. Rod Jones runs up and takes the ball away from Pilgrim.
It was a great feeling to win the first one, and then a greater feeling to have back-to-back.
Two years later, sophomores Frank Ramsey and Cliff Hagan joined 7-foot center Bill Spivey to lead the Wildcats back into the Final Four. Against Illinois in the semifinals, Spivey's 28 points and 16 rebounds led Kentucky, although the Cats still needed a Shelby Linville basket to edge Illinois and return to the finals for the third time in just 4 years.
Coach Rupp wanted our minds to be on the game all the time. And he said, you can enjoy the game after, don't enjoy it before.
Kentucky's opponent in the championship game was Kansas State.
Kansas State was highly favored to beat us. I remember I spoke to Henry Ibe. He didn't give us a bit of information at all. He says, Adolph, it's the best basketball team that's ever been put together in the history of basketball. That's all I can say.
Early on, K-State jumped out to the lead, but Kentucky was missing one of its best players.
I had this strep throat going into that game, and Coach Rupp did not start me. Kept asking, what's Hagan's temperature? What's Hagan's temperature? And they'd say, well, it's 99 or 98.9 or whatever. And he said, well, that's about the right temperature for him to go in.
Hagan proved to be the spark the Wildcats needed, and eventually Kentucky got itself back in the game, but largely because Bill Spivey was invisible. The Wildcats still trailed at the half.
I got a little rough with him at the half.
At halftime, Coach Rupp climbed Bill Spivey's frame, as only Coach Rupp can do it. And all at once, Spivey's 7 feet came alive on the court and rebounded blocking shots. You could see Lou Hitch, the center's face, just fall with this big guy doing these things.
Before you could say scat, we had a 20-point lead.
With Spivey's 22 points and 21 rebounds leading the way, Kentucky won by 10, taking its third national championship in 4 seasons.
We congratulated the Kansas State players. There wasn't certainly the elation that you have today. I just remember going back to the hotel and getting something to eat and going to bed.
Soon after, however, Kentucky's earlier championships were tarnished by players' admissions that select games during the 49 season were fixed. The scandal, which resulted in a ban from play for the entire 1953 season, badly hurt the image of both Rupp and Kentucky basketball. Still, the Wildcats kept on winning, and in 1956 they were back in the tournament. Just 2 years after that, Rupp created another championship team with another legendary nickname.
He said we were kind of fiddlers, and we weren't Carnegie Hall violinists, and so it went on that whole year, the Fiddling Five, which is good to have a nickname and be known as some five from the University of Kentucky tradition.
Six-time losers during the regular season, the Fiddling Five wasn't one of America's elite teams in terms of talent, but they did play as a unit.
We had a meeting probably 2 weeks before the tournament began, and he called us all in a little session just down on the gym floor out in the center of the floor, and he says, we're real close to being good, but we're not there yet. If we could just improve as much as 10% on what we're doing, he says, we'll win this tournament.
We're down here now to the NCAA tournament. We didn't expect to be here, and of course no one in the world thought we'd be here.
We thought we could win every time we took the floor, where we had the talent or not. Being seniors, you're about ready to go out and conquer the world.
In the way was Guy Rogers and Temple, a team the Cats had beaten in triple overtime earlier in the year. The national semifinal was just as close, and when Rogers missed the front of a 1-and-1 with 27 seconds left and Temple up by 1, Kentucky had its chance.
Call timeout. Coach Rupp said either Vernon Hatton or Johnny Cox or myself shoot the ball.
Harry Lancaster, the great assistant coach, stepped in and said, Coach, let's let Hatton do it. And I heard that and I said, yeah, Coach, let me do it. I can do it. And so I kept pumping myself up, and sure enough, Coach Rupp said, all right, Hatton, you try it. And I dribbled around under the basket, and they covered me, and I swept out on the other side and hooked back and made it. We went ahead. We ran down the floor, and Pickles Kennedy was throwing the ball to Guy Rogers, and somehow it flipped out of bounds. We got the ball back and held it till we had won the game. And then the next night was Elgin Baylor and Seattle.
Seattle had a great ball club, and I'm sure at that time we were in awe with Elgin Baylor because you'd heard so much about him.
Baylor was indeed a phenomenal player, and in the early part of the finals, he led Seattle to an 11-point lead. But all along, Rupp had a plan, and he stuck to it despite the score.
The strategy was that they put him on our forward, John Krigler. They just cleared the side a lot for him and drove on him, and as a result, he got 3 fouls on him right in the beginning of the ball game.
It got us so excited and happy. Every time we'd get the ball, we'd just kind of plunge into Baylor. And he's like a pussycat. We just kind of ran by him all night.
Despite Baylor's foul trouble, Seattle still managed to keep its lead at the half. But the tide was turning, and Rupp knew it.
That might have been the calmest I ever saw Coach Rupp at halftime. He came in and said, boys, we're going to come back.
I told the boys at the half, I said, we're going to win. I said, no question about that. And I said, if you go out and do what I tell you to do, we're going to win this ball game.
With a tentative Baylor now little more than a spectator on defense, Johnny Cox found room on the outside while Vernon Hatton kept driving to the basket. And when Baylor got his 4th foul just 3.5 minutes into the half, the Cats took advantage of a Seattle switch.
It was scary when we were behind. They had to go into a zone to protect Baylor from fouling out, and once they did that, Johnny could hit from long range.
They began to burn the nets up from out about 20 feet.
I could drive good and hit about a 20-foot soft jump shot.
Kentucky's basketball. Vernon Hatton gets the shot up good.
Every time one of those guys would shoot, I would be trying to get me a position for a rebound, and it was like he used to say, when he shoots, there ain't no rebound till he hits them off. If it wasn't one hit, and it was the. So once we got our momentum going and they began to hit, it seemed like Johnny Cox had a little fadeaway jumper, and it just right through it went the same way as Vernon. They were just hitting the bottom to it most of the time.
By the end, Cox and Hatton had combined for 35 second-half points as Kentucky outscored Seattle 48-33 in the game's second 20 minutes to win going away.
This is the great night, the night that everybody looks forward to in the coaching profession. Yes, sir.
The Wildcats' 84-72 win gave Rupp and Kentucky their 4th national championship, and the Fiddlin' Five due respect.
Now that you've won this national title, that you belong right up there in Carnegie Hall as concert violinist. You're the greatest. Congratulations. I'll remember you the rest of my life.
It added to the already rich tradition that was there. They had a great run with the Beard and the Groza and those guys. But to come back and then do it again, and then do it again later on in the 50s, I think put Kentucky in a position of being one of those legendary programs, yeah.
It would take 8 years and 5 more NCAA appearances before Rupp would take another team to the Final Four. The year was 1966, when Kentucky ended the year ranked #1 in the country and faced #2 Duke in the national semifinals. With no starter taller than 6'5", Rupp's Runts, as they were known, beat the Blue Devils by 4, thanks to 19 points from Pat Riley and 23 from Louis Dampier.
Most people thought that we had won the tournament the night before against Duke. Not saying that we went into the final game taking Texas Western lightly. We were confident that we could win, but we weren't overconfident.
Actually, the finals were supposed to be a romp. Don Haskins' upstarts from Texas Western were thought to be no match for Rupp's tradition-soaked Wildcats.
There was a feeling on the court that I think coming from them that this was more to them than just the basketball game because they had something to prove.
Tommy Cron picked up in backcourt.
And prove it they did.
Texas Western set Cron up beautifully for that one. And it's 12-9, the Miners. They do the same thing to Dampier, and here's Hill with another gimme. Say now, this looks pretty bad. Kentucky has just gone flat-footed.
We just had a bad game.
Kentucky's lost that bounce and zip.
And we were never in the game. It was a 7-point game, but we were never in it.
It was really devastating. I felt especially bad for Coach Rupp. That would have been his 5th and possibly his last chance, which it turned out it was. And just to see the strong person wilt with that loss did a lot to me.
The 66 loss might have been devastating for Rupp, but even he had to be pleased that by now Kentucky was a team known and admired all over the world. Still on their trip through Greece and the Middle East after the 66 season, these Wildcats remained Rupp's Runts. They would also be his last Final Four team. Even with players like Dan Issel, who would go on to become Kentucky's all-time leading scorer, Rupp's last 6 seasons ended without a trip back to the Final Four.
In 68 and 69, there was a team out on the West Coast by the name of UCLA that had a player by the name of Lou Alcindor that was pretty good. And so I think those 2 years we were probably playing for second place anyway. By my senior year, we thought we had a real chance to win. In fact, we were rated #1 in the final polls before the tournament started. But Jacksonville kind of snuck in and knocked us off. One of the big disappointments in my basketball career is that I never made it to the Final Four.
The same could not be said of Adolph Rupp. In getting to his 6 Final Fours, Rupp often said that championships are not won by wishing and hoping. They're won by hard work and a willingness to sacrifice.
Every game was war. He told me I'd rather lose $1 million than lose a basketball game.
It doesn't matter whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. That was very foreign to him. He said if it wasn't important, why do they keep score?
Let the scoreboard show that Adolph Rupp was a winner in every sense of the word. To him, defeat and failure were the enemy, and they were so since he came to Kentucky in 1930.
He came in at a time when basketball was nothing in the South, and he was determined to build it up here at Kentucky.
We have no magic formula, but we do have some sound fundamental drills and some very excellent plays.
Which he did, and he did it so well and so arrogantly.
When he makes his first speech as you come in as a freshman, he says, we're going to be winners, and if you don't feel like you can be one, get up and leave now.
He was the coach and you were the player, and you were always very aware of the distinction between the two. He wanted you to have the opinion that he was the baron in the brown suit.
He was bigger than life. It was a very disciplined organization, and he was the guy that led it. He was a father figure. He was a stern man. He was a great basketball coach.
He wanted his teams to be the best, to perform the best, to be precise, to exhibit perfection.
Come on, Jim!
If he told me to run through that wall, I'd say, okay, just back up and give me some room.
Adolph Rupp's success spanned nearly a half century, and by the time he retired in 1972, the Baron of the Bluegrass had defined Kentucky basketball.
He always tried to do his best. That's good enough because I think that exemplifies exactly what I tried to do.
I learned immediately that he was the king of Kentucky.
And if I had to use one name or one word to describe basketball, I would just say Coach Adolph Rupp.
To those of you that went down the glory road with faith, my eternal thanks. I have a worthy successor. I told him after 42 years, if the basketball program fails at the University of Kentucky, then I have built it on a sand foundation.
The Joe B. Hall era of Kentucky basketball began in 1972, and by 1975, Hall and freshman sensation Jack Goose Givens had the Wildcats back in national championship contention. That year's biggest win came in the Mid-East Regional Final against number 1 ranked Indiana.
If you had asked me, I would have said, let's try to get to the finals without playing Indiana again, because I was scared to death. As a freshman, I was scared to death, you know. I mean, I didn't want to face them again. But when you talk about the guys who were the real stars of that team, they wanted Indiana again. So for those guys, that was the championship game.
In one of the biggest surprises in tournament history, the Cats, led by Mike Flynn's 22 points, beat the undefeated Hoosiers to move into the Final Four.
One of the biggest games in the history of Kentucky basketball. People remember that to this day, 92-90.
The only bad thing is we never played that well again, you know, in the finals. We just didn't get back to that because we'd used so much emotion in that ball game.
Fact is, the Cats did play well in the national semifinals, with Givens scoring 24 points. Kentucky easily beat Syracuse and then faced UCLA in the finals.
I don't think the freshmen really realized how big it was. You know, it was like a Golden Gloves boxer facing Muhammad Ali, going up against a super basketball power that has been there for years and years.
Despite losing to UCLA and what would be John Wooden's last game, the Cats had in fact set the stage for a return trip to the Final Four in 1978.
Those seniors, Roby, Phillips, Givens, and Lee, had been to the finals in 1975. They'd won the NIT in 76. They'd been Final 8 in 77. They had nothing else to accomplish but to win the NCAA championship. Having had the experience of losing it, all of us were very determined to win that championship.
We were on a mission. If we didn't win the championship that year, our total careers were a flop.
Throughout the 78 tournament, Kentucky was relentless. Against Magic Johnson and Michigan State, the Cats fell behind at the half. But behind Kyle Macy, they rallied for a 52-49 win to reach the Final Four.
From day one, we were focused on winning the championship, not just to get to the Final Four, but to win the national championship.
Riding the back of Jack Givens, Kentucky made the most of its 8th Final Four appearance.
The Cats on the run, leading by 6. Macy overcounts. That's the biggest lead of the game for Kentucky. Kentucky 4-on-1. Lee, oh!
Midway through the second half, the Cats led Arkansas by 9. But Coach Eddie Sutton's Razorbacks closed the gap to 1 until Givens helped put the game away.
And there's the easy one for Kentucky.
The Cats won by 5, but there was still one more game to play.
Joe had told his ball club, you know, we will have fun when this thing is over. It was a very, very business-like, almost an IBM attitude that season about getting it done and winning the championship and coming home with a big trophy.
Joe Hall, who has said this has been a season without celebration for us. So much has been expected. We have to win tonight.
We knew we'd worked all year for that one game, and we were just going to seize the opportunity.
Slater breaking in there, bounces off to James Lee, stuff.
We went out and started off, played real well. Jack caught fire.
Puts in it, Roby, back to Slater. Inside to Givens, he turns, fakes, makes his move, goes up for a shot, got it. That's what Kentucky wants to do.
When Jack Givens got the basketball, you knew that something special was about to happen.
Givens moving in. Stops, goes up from 15, got it.
I don't really think there was any way you could have stopped Jack that night.
Works hard. Tipped in by Givens. He is everywhere.
The look in his eye, he looked like he felt that every shot he took was going in.
Givens had it knocked away, controls it, and he scores it. He's been sensational.
It was like, okay, guys, come on, here we go. You know, I'm on a roll. I'm going to take you with me right now, so hang with me.
Givens again.
I didn't think I could miss for a stretch there, and everything was just going.
Jack Givens has 29 points.
Jack can't be beat tonight.
Roby right there to get. No, he misses the shot. Givens gets it. He scores.
Give it to the Goose, and the Goose truly turned out to be golden.
And there he is, the Goose. Oh, he's having a night, isn't he? His career.
In an incredible individual performance that included scoring the Cats' last 16 points in the first half, Jack Givens finished with 41, the third most points in the history of the championship game.
When he made the basket from the corner, when it hit the side of the backboard and went in, you said right there, it's his night.
You just can't dream that good.
Givens was just too much for Duke to overcome, as the Cats' 94-88 win gave Kentucky its 5th national championship.
Put it in close. A power down. And that's going to be it. The University of Kentucky are the basketball champions of the National Collegiate Athletic Association.
Think about it, you play in the backyard, you put yourself in situations where you got a chance to win the NCAA tournament, you make shots and everybody thinks you're a hero. I went out on top, we won it as a team. Everything was wrapped into that game. I can't imagine any better way to end your college career.
For Kentucky basketball fans, 1983's Mid-East Regional Final was memorable for the first meeting between UK and Louisville in nearly 25 years. Jim Masters' buzzer beater forced overtime, but the Cardinals prevailed 80-68. A year later, however, Kentucky beat Louisville and was back on the road to the Final Four.
Here at Kentucky every year, it's expected for us to get there, and it's expected for us to win it.
Kentucky did get there in 1984, and against Georgetown in the first half of the national semifinal, it looked as if they would win it too. Led by their monster front line of Sam Bowie, Kenny Walker, and Mel Turpin, the Cats jumped out to an early lead.
We went up 11, I believe, and just couldn't really spread it out from there. And I think things came too easy for us, really did in the first half.
Kentucky looking awesome right now.
With 3 minutes left in the half, Kentucky had a 12-point lead, but change was on the way.
I would be amazed if John Thompson wasn't kind of happy that he's only 7 down at this point, the way Kentucky had control that first half.
We didn't play very well the first half, and I think we were up 7 at halftime, and we were somewhat discouraged and disappointed in the performance that we had.
If the first half was discouraging, the second was a nightmare. The Cats shot just 3 for 33 and were outscored 31-11.
I always felt that some Georgetown physicists had developed some kind of laser beam or something that was knocking that ball out of the basket.
Well, every time I see Patrick Ewing, I kind of grab him by his jersey and tell him that he's walking around with my NCAA championship ring, because to this day I still feel as though we were the best team in the country that particular year.
Joby Hall would coach the Wildcats for just 1 more year, while his replacement Eddie Sutton would last 4 before resigning in 1989.
The most important decision that I would make during the time that I would be athletics director at Kentucky would be the naming of a basketball coach, that it had to be the right person.
The screening committee made a unanimous recommendation that Coach Richard A. Pitino be offered the position as head basketball coach at the University of Kentucky.
It's been a tradition with me to say that we will win, and we will win right away.
He knew he had a job to do, you know, and he did it. And I don't think that there's a coach in the country who could have done what he's done to Kentucky basketball as fast.
The Rick Pitino era began in 1989, and by 1992, the Wildcats were back in the tournament.
It was our first time getting into the tournament in 4 years. I think we finally got there, and it was like, hey, you know, now that we're here, let's make something out of it.
Rotate up to the man, and rotate down on the inside. All right, fellas, let's go.
Look at this steal by Pelfrey. Kentucky just keeps coming at you.
Under Pitino's aggressive up-tempo style, Kentucky raced past Old Dominion, Iowa State, and UMass, and into the East Regional Finals. There they met Christian Laettner and Duke, the defending national champions.
Laettner.
It would be a game for the ages, one in which Laettner was unstoppable as Duke unsuccessfully tried to pull away.
Nice pass. Oh.
You've got to keep digging in and keep playing and never give up.
Led by Jamal Mashburn, Kentucky kept the game close. And by the second half, it was apparent that the Cats' game plan was working to perfection.
We thought Duke could be pressed.
Veldhouse with the steal. Mashburn for three.
You know, you can look at somebody and tell that when you got them rattled, and they were rattled.
Early now. Alley-oop. Mashburn.
In each minute of the game that went by, the play got better and better and better.
Early with the kiss, basket, yes, and the foul.
Coach said, look, you're going to get down sometimes, you know, but you'll have your run.
Another one. Dale Brown.
And we were hitting big-time shots. They were hitting big-time shots.
Steal. Thomas Hill.
When it comes down to the last 5 minutes, we're going to win.
Pelfrey. Takes Hill in. Gets another one.
With hearts racing, the two teams traded baskets and dreams down a dramatic stretch run.
Mashburn. Fouled. He'll shoot one.
Finally, in overtime, with Mashburn lost to fouls and the Cats down one, the game wound down.
So it comes down to the four seniors who stuck around for Kentucky. 7.8 seconds remaining. Woods.
I never thought we'd be in a Final Four the entire season with this basketball team until that moment when that shot went in. I suddenly looked up and said, I can't believe this. We may go to a Final Four. We were all just very anxious just to get back out there and have them throw the ball away and just imagine us celebrating and say, you know, we finally done it. You know, we're going to the Final Four. But, you know, unfortunately, it didn't happen like that.
The game, indeed the entire season, had come down to a single improbable shot.
You could not have a more fierce competition or pressure-packed situation for the fans.
Will the dream die here for Duke?
I saw Grant Hill throw the ball to Christian Laettner, and as soon as it was like slow motion. As soon as he caught the ball, I knew it was going in because he had such a perfect day.
There's the pass to Laettner. Puts it up. Yes!
Every single person gave everything they had. With that in mind, we knew that we were winners no matter what the scoreboard said.
I told them how proud I was of not only their effort but the season. And they'll look back on this year as one of the most special moments in their life with this basketball game.
Remarkably, the Cats never looked back in disappointment. They only looked forward to a 1993 season in which they won 30 games and wreaked havoc on the NCAA tournament.
We had a thirst to get to the Final Four after being deprived the year before that. But we went on a devastating run in the NCAA that year.
In reaching Kentucky's 10th Final Four, the 93 Cats outscored their first four tournament opponents by an average of 31 points.
26-4 run for the Wildcats. Mashburn with a layup. This is a withering display of basketball talent in both ends.
And with all our talent and put it together in one system, it was pretty much hell for everybody.
And Kentucky moves into the Final Four.
Being at the Final Four was something special because it meant you was the last four teams to play. And while everybody was home watching you, and they knew they had no other choice but to watch you.
In the national semifinal that year, Kentucky battled Michigan, and from the start, the Cats, led by Jamal Mashburn's 17 first-half points, played at a blistering pace.
Goes up, lays it up and in. Stuffs it in. Puts it up and in. Jamal Mashburn goes under, stuffs it. We've got a tie ball game.
The game eventually went into overtime, but when Mashburn fouled out after scoring 26 points, Kentucky's dream of reaching the championship final came to an abrupt end. Despite Michigan's win, it was clear the Cats were again traveling down the glory road.
Getting back to that level, let everybody know Kentucky basketball was back.
And the reason was Rick Pitino, whose enthusiastic style and engaging manner brought Kentucky back to its previous NCAA glory.
Hostile environment to obviously get some type of exposure.
My love is so great when it comes to this game of basketball. As a child, I played so many young children do, but I never grew up.
19 out of 20 teams fold when the lead changes hands after leading. Fold, but you didn't.
He teaches you the way to win. And you use that not only in basketball, but in life also.
You took it to the rim, you didn't take your eyes off the rim and want the clock to run out, you kept playing.
I think he's the best coach in the country, bar nobody.
That was a big-time win. Oh, God, Andre, you were fantastic, baby. You were just great.
He will always be my coach, I think.
Okay, great job.
Being the best you can be is the most important thing to me. If that's good enough to bring 1, 2, 3 national championships, so be it.
Perhaps one day a Rick Pitino coached Kentucky basketball team will win a national championship. And with it, add to the grand wildcat tradition of the 5 previous national championships, each special in its own way.
To be able to say that you're the very first club that won the NCAA championship for Kentucky is special.
We expected to win. The people in Lexington and the people of Kentucky expected us to win. Obviously, it was a great honor to win 2 in a row. It meant everything.
We competed against the best, the brightest, and the best athletes at the time, and we came out supreme. So that's something we'll always remember.
You know that you were the top of the line. You were the greatest that ever played there because you won a national title, and that's the highest you can go in college basketball.
And a lot of people accuse us of not having any fun, which at times maybe we didn't celebrate during the course of the season as we could have, but I tell you what, we're still celebrating to this day because the goal was accomplished.
Tradition and excellence. In the history of the NCAA championships, there are few schools with a combination of the two, like the University of Kentucky.
Everybody thinks, well, this place is special, this place is special. There's no place like the University of Kentucky.
If basketball players truly go to heaven, then this will be heaven.
Just sort of stood up straight and stuck your chest out anytime you could mention the University of Kentucky and the Kentucky Wildcats.
There's nothing like it, and it's something that just fills you with pride. The ones who are fortunate enough to wear the blue and white.
Once you've played for the university with the tradition that you have, people never forget you.
Kentucky basketball transcends the game of basketball. The constant striving for excellence to be the very best. People live and die and get behind Kentucky basketball. If you ever want to play the game and be part of something that truly can be significant, you better be ready to win.
The best time of my life. I look back on it with just wonderful memories. Longing for those days again.
This has been a Black Canyon production.